Alright, so for those of you just tuning in, we're about to spectate a free-for-all between my viewers, of course part of my weekly Twitch TV live streams. If you're interested in this, by all means, feel free to head on over to my Twitch page, link on the screen or in the video description, and you can scroll down there and find my live streaming schedule on that page. I do update that about every day. I got Moxie with his emo spam. Oh my goodness. We're going to be playing on a custom random map, which was made by RabbitTortoise. Last time we played on this map, I believe he's made a lot of fixes since then. Was not necessarily an excellent game. Of course, I will be mixing these in with the usual, 4v4 high-rated games and whatnot, just so you guys get a little bit of everything. Should be a fun one. Of course, King of the Hill. No teams diplomacy, so players will be able to form alliances, but they do have to backstab each other at the... I'm going to remember him as that emote spam guy. But they do get to backstab each other at the last minute, which does usually create very exciting games. Thank you so much, Tipkey, for the 7th month resub. Oh, we all loaded in. This is the first time in like 3 months that every player is actually loaded into the free-for-all game the first time. Thank you so much, Tolstoy of the Ages, for the 4-month resub. Much appreciated. That was weird. So anyways, you can see from the map layout, there are now straggler trees here, which is absolutely excellent. This is the center monument, of course, where once a player has a unit here, the countdown will start, which you'll be able to see in the top right corner of the screen. When that timer hits 0, the player that holds the monument wins the game. And when you run out of units near the center monument, then it'll swap control to that other player. Now, of course, players will be able to form alliances, but only one player will win in the end, so there are going to be all sorts of team swapping and betrayals. First, I'm going to start off by introducing the players, and primarily I'll be referring to them by their player color rather than their username to try and keep things a little more straightforward. We have Korbik playing as the red Ethiopians, Seven Hands playing as the green Spanish, which is apparently Salty Seven Hands' brother, apparently. Vavi is playing as the yellow Celts, Zipline 20 as the blue Mongols, TK the PK will be our purple/pink Spanish, I've got Moxie will be the gray Goths, and Timo the Swift Scout will be the orange Portuguese. Now, as Pez asked, 1 second. Sorry about that, guys. My allergies are, like, awful. Goodness. Eck. Sounded like a truck stop lady for a minute there. Come closer and give your auntie a kiss. No, Nanos Pez, I don't usually accept maps from viewers. I'm only doing it this one time, just because RabbitTortoise has been so very helpful, and he took the time to make this kind of map for me. But in general, I don't think I'll be using viewer-submitted maps. McKay asks, are you sure this Aoe2 HD? Now that I haven't loaded in, well, now that everyone actually did load in, I'm really not sure. This map is some sort of like weird cross between Double Arabia and Coastal, which is pretty crazy. The purpose of this map, RabbitTortoise says, is he wanted to make it a little bit faster, which is why players start with, 2 sets of resources and 2 town centers, which means the game should, in theory, be faster, because usually the early game in these free-for-alls tends to be a little bit slow. So hopefully this addresses this. And also, he's trying to incentivize, some more comeback mechanics by putting the center monument. It's not King of the Hill. He calls it King of the Downhill because the center monument is in this pit, which means that players that attack it will have an elevation advantage, making it harder to actually hold the center hill. We'll see if that mechanic pays off. There are also some resources around it, so it kind of balances out. Good on Vavi for starting the timer now. It's at 550 years, and once that timer hits 0, Vavi will win the game unless someone actually takes the center back from him. Of course, if you enjoyed this, or you're interested in seeing more awesome free-for-alls, Age of Empires 2 videos, or videos for other strategy games, I got all done on my YouTube channel. Ton of free-for-all games, expert games, tutorials, you name it. It's all there. Feel free to check it out. Flatchess, how are you, my friend? I'm doing pretty well today. It's been pretty rough on me recently because I've been trying to adjust my sleep schedule because next door they're tearing down my neighbor's house and building a new one, which, as you can imagine, is very, very loud. So that's been a struggle. And of course, I've also just been trying to get by, as Aoe2 doesn't really pay the bills, so I have to try and do some things on the side. Not as a replacement for Aoe2, mind you, but extra content. And when people try and fight that, it's not like I really have a choice. I kind of have to do it. So that's something that's gonna... That's a tricky thing for me, but most people seem to be very supportive of that, so I appreciate that. I remember seeing Giant Apple and RabbitTortoise responding to some comments on my behalf. Helps me out a lot, and ooh, maybe lost a wild boar. So for the most part, doing pretty well, so I appreciate that people are being flexible with me. There are a lot of things to look forward to this year, things like Prismata, Feria, Duelist. Atlas is also something that I got my eyes on, as perhaps a game that might turn out to be really, really good. I wish I had some I guess easier things I could do on the side, but for the most part, yeah. Why do Hearthstone? Because I happen to like Hearthstone. But I will be mixing it up though. So when I do extra content, it would be I'll still do Age of Empires 2, and then I'll do some Hearthstone and then something else with that, I guess. Something along those lines. So zipline here, going to pull in that boar. Not necessarily the smoothest lure here. This is going to be really tricky for these players to actually, micromanage, 2 sets of economies at the same time at the beginning, especially because a lot of these players are a little bit new to Age of Empires 2. Let me know, by the way, if you hear any of the drilling outside and all the sawing and whatnot. It is loud. No earplugs can save me from the shaking floor. Now, this is something weird that I've noticed in this map, is you'll notice that TK the PK is actually our purple Spanish player is very far away from blue, but blue not so far away from red, so it's pretty funny how that ends up working out here. In the last time that we played on this map, not only was the match quality very laggy and just poor in general, so hopefully this one's a bit better. A lot of players just didn't dock, and there's just a lot of fish here, and I think this looks really cool, by the way. If there's one thing that Aoe2 HD does well, water is beautiful. Flatchess, how did Hearthstone go? I would say overall pretty successful. I think that most people understand that in order for me to not have to move on from YouTube and other things, like Zero Empires did and whatnot, that I would have to do something on the side. So yeah, I think most people understand that, which is nice. Another boar lure in here. I noticed that most of the players aren't really worrying too much about whether or not their boar lure is efficient, but rather they just killed it, which I would say is probably the right choice. Considering that you have 2 town centers, it's just going to be difficult to micromanage all this stuff perfectly, so it's much better to be doing the right things poorly than just not be trying them at all, if that makes any sense. So the Kool-Aid dude says, that's called construction, yes. Oh my. So yeah, this is sort of like a cross between like Budapest Coastal and whatnot. It's pretty interesting. So really my eyes this game are going to be on this green player, Mr. Seven Hands, the green Spanish. As to why? Well, it's because his rating is by far the highest. Now he insists that he's not a god and he's not going to stomp these guys. And normally I would be like, nice try, and banish him to the higher rated game on my stream, except, well, this is a King of the Hill game. Not only did he insist that it was actually balanced, but since it's a King of the Hill game, being the strongest player isn't necessarily a strength, because that puts a giant target on your back. Should our green Spanish player hold the center monument, then everybody in the game can very easily set their team to 1, gang up on him, and take his kidneys. Oh, hello, Cheese on Toast. Good to see you. There's quite a while where I just didn't see you. Ninja Guy says, would you consider Voobly objectively better than HD? I can't use the word objectively, although as a joke, it's one of my favorite words to misuse when I talk with my friends. Like this burger is objectively the greatest piece of food on the planet. This burger is literally delicious. I love doing things like that. Always triggers people. But I don't know if I can use the word objectively with Voobly, because I do think that it provides a general better experience, but if you're like me, and you've been doing like 6 years of Age of Empires 2 content, and you've been playing it for over double that time, you've seen several thousand replays, then you're probably craving some of that new content. You want to see what Sijin's cooking in his DLC lab, and I want a taste of that Sijin expansion. So that's why I play on African Kingdoms, and that's why I play on Aoe2 HDs, because I think the DLC is really fun. So I don't know if I can use the word objective there. AK says best hamburger, yes. It's objectively the best hamburger. Conscript David asks, do you know how the Franks call a quarter pounder? No, I don't. Well, during the beginning of the game, there usually isn't too much action to speak of, which is usually when I focus more on answering a couple questions in the chat, just to hang out with you guys. However, as the game drags on, we'll be focusing a little bit more on the exciting gameplays. It looks like Timo the Swift Scout going for a very aggressive laning build here. He started with a Doran's Blade, and he's going to be opening up with a standard 3 Militia Drush. 4 Militia Drush! Swap into this guy's perspective. This is the Portuguese build order we've all been waiting for. He's just queuing up the Militia. He's up to 6. Now, recently I did a really cool video, I think, on the Portuguese Caravel unit, showcasing how they play on the new water balance, but what I haven't showcased is the dominant, objectively, literally the best land build. This is the new metagame. Yes. I recommend the 2 town center Portuguese on King of the Downhill, where you open up with the 6 Militia. He does not actually have enough money to research men-at-arms. Oh, I like that he is building villagers from multiple town centers. I think it's something that's very, very important. The most important piece of advice I can give you when you're starting out is to try and minimize your town center idle time. Make sure your town center is always working, creating villagers, militia, you name it. Well, not militia. Creating villagers, researching the attack, or advance to the next stage. You want to have at least 100 villagers, at least half the max population of the game as villagers. You want to get there as soon as possible. That's why you'll see players in the Castle Age putting down multiple town centers. Mr. Orange, Timo, Captain Timo on duty, is grabbing that men-at-arms upgrade. Ka-chunk, ka-chunk. They're all attacking in sync. Slowly draining the green Spanish scum of every little ounce of wood. Poor Green. Let's swap to his perspective here. We can see his wood slowly going down, but I think he will be able to defend against this, of course, by just repairing it until the end of time. However, once Timo reaches the Castle Age, he gets his several item power spike. He will have completed his Death Cap or Nashor's Tooth, and he will be researching the arson upgrade, and he'll be able to tear right through this barracks like a butter knife through butter. However, Seven Hands was not born yesterday. He's putting down a watchtower. And the nice thing about this is that it will be able to just zone the men-at-arms off of this barracks. They will have to back off, and he does get to keep this barracks. However, since he's stonewalling alongside it, keeping this barracks alive is almost inconsequential. I guess he just doesn't want Timo to actually get into his own base. Well, will Orange retreat? Is he a pussy? We'll find out. The right play, though, probably is to retreat, but I think he wants that one building raised. He wants it really, really badly. He needs it in his achievements. He's about to lose a men-at-arms, but he will be able to destroy the barracks right before he loses one of his men-at-arms. Flawless victory here for our good friend, Mr. Orange, and he does have to back off while Green adds some extra layers to the walls. It looks like Red is winning, technically, because he has the control of the middle of the map, but his score is really low. He's got half the score of our friend Green. Not exactly sure why. If I had to guess, I really don't want to do this. What do you guys think his population is? Think of a number in your mind right now. Due to stream delay, I won't be able to see it. If you're watching YouTube, think of a number in your head. What do you think it is? 59 for Green. I'm going to go with like 25 for Red. 27, close enough. So Red's had a lot of town center idle time. He's actually going up to the Castle Age on a relatively standard 27 population with one of his town centers actually idle. The thing is, though, is the double town center metagame, which most people aren't really experienced with. He could probably go up with more population than this. Basically, Red just needs to make more villagers, and I'm not sure if he's really listening in on the stream right about now, because it might cause some lag, but he's just going to need more villagers. One of his town centers is idle. 27 villagers is not going to be enough to win this game. Some of you guys are really close. Wow. My Nan's account, 25. Winner, winner, winner. Or close. Is Sienna, right? The 27, so perfect. 2K, 4K gamer, you can see the link to subscribe underneath the stream. Meanwhile, holy shit, what is this? Oh my stars and garters, what? Nice. This is why Green doesn't belong in this game, because he's not making militia. I don't know what's wrong with him. You know, yellow for a guy who's neutral with gray. This is not how you showcase your neutrality. Get the men-at-arms upgrade, my good friend. Please tell me he's queuing it up. 80%, he should wait until he has that upgrade to engage. Otherwise, he's taking so much free damage. He has the upgrade. Here comes the power spike, the timing attack. Can he deal with gray? He might be able to, because gray does not have his 2 scouts in with the rest of his army. Yellow pulling some villagers off the line, so he's taking a lot of economic damage here. He doesn't necessarily have to lose these villagers, but they're not gathering anything, so it's a big blow to his economy. Oh, looks like gray will be able to clean it up. Oh my god, yellow perhaps. He might have 500 more points than gray does, but gray just had more men-at-arms. Yellow perhaps engaging a little bit prematurely without the men-at-arms upgrade. Big mistake, unfortunately. I do like, though, that yellow has the scale mail armor. Actually, so does gray, which is good. You usually want to be prioritizing your defense upgrades when it comes to melee units, and then your range and attack upgrades for the ranged units. Meanwhile, Seven Hands going for the standard knight play with the Spanish. He has bloodlines. He's +1 defense. Excellent. Will make his knights very, very good against these villagers, as he will be able to just soak up those town center shots quite nicely with the extra HP, extra armor. He's going to get in here and try and kill as many of Timo's villagers. Meanwhile, Timo's struggling to get his units to respawn in Aoe2 HD. Corbix says, fuck it, I'll go for retarded Shotel Warrior Rush. Sounds like a plan, my friend. Meanwhile, Orange trying to get his men-at-arms over here. This is one of the reasons why long swordsmen are not a very strong Castle Age unit, because they just happen to be very slow, and knights can kite them with relative ease. So you might not be able to get up to them in time to actually stop them. These men-at-arms are not very good against these knights. He's going to need some spearmen, but again, another reason why knights are so strong is you kind of need that pikeman upgrade first before you really do some damage to them. Meanwhile, yellow will not be able to safely secure this boar, trying to slowly pull those gray men-at-arms underneath the town center like we used to do when we played against the AI. Meanwhile, as villagers staging an uprising is going to try and do some damage to his men-at-arms, but with forging, these are some strong Goth men-at-arms. I think it's another reason why gray won that fight. Yellow has a very good score right now. What the fuck is this? He's a very good score right now, presumably because he's been keeping his town center working, but he can't deal with that cheap Goths production. These cheap Chinese plastic men-at-arms are too strong. They keep coming by the thousand. Meanwhile, looks like yellow actually has the forging upgrade in addition to his scale mail armor. Well, orange, so far so good, but he's probably going to want to put down another barracks for more spearmen, or he's just going to keep losing his villagers. The ones that are further away from the town center are, of course, more vulnerable, and he will want to patrol some spearmen to protect them. It's a very inefficient wood line. This looks like something that my custom AI would build. I should probably build a secondary lumber camp a little bit closer to the tree line. So far, this is turning out to be a ridiculous free-for-all game. I have no idea why this one is more absurd than all the other ones, but everyone's build is insane. I mean, we played on the same map last time, but what the hell is this? This is amazing! This is like watching, some of my childhood matches. I really don't see what this accomplishes. All those villagers that are right next to the town center are mostly fine, and look at this 3 mil saturation. I really want Spirit of the Law to see this, that way he can tell us exactly how efficient this farming setup is. Oh my. Is this the optimal way to place the mills? This is really cool though, because the way with Yellow's town center here, he isn't, mostly surrounded on the top side, but his villagers on the top side, they can't get to the town center to drop with their food. But that's why they have the 2 mills at the top, so in theory it's not actually that bad. And it does make it a lot harder for his opponents to actually surround this town center, since on one side it's just covered in houses and mills. So I would really like to know exactly how efficient that is. 2K 4K Gamer donated $10. Thank you so much. He says, keep up the best videos around Residence 22. Will do, man. It's really difficult when Aoe2 HD is in such a bad spot. But I appreciate the support. Thank you so much. Hopefully you guys understand. And you understand why I have to do some things on the side every now and then. That way I get to keep up the Aoe2 videos. Stick around, I hope to be here for quite some time. That way I can see dank builds like this. Whoa! This is the new episode of Break the Meta. Man, the quality of that series has gone downhill. I'm kidding, of course. Although, I mean, I could do, like, viewer-submitted replays or Break the Meta, but my thoughts are always it should be strategies that you don't commonly see in the expert metagame. And this includes things like the Turks Fast Imperial Age, which you might have seen online, but you'll never see expert players actually go for that, let alone pick the Turks. So that was sort of the idea. Maybe picking viewer games there kind of defeats the purpose. Red score still very low, perhaps a little bit allergic to those villagers, but so far he's the only player in the game who's playing the objective. Once again, we see the player with the worst economy is the only player in the game who knows it's King of the Hill. Rock on, Red! Meanwhile, we're still in this Feudal Age men-at-arms fight between Yellow and Gray, but Gray's cheap men-at-arms. They do nothing. He will not be able to take down the Celts men-at-arms, which are just a little bit faster. Here's the thing, like Gray's streaming his men-at-arms one at a time. He needs to mass them up a little bit before he engages this army. When you're both making the same type of military units, you don't want to engage when you're at a significantly smaller army size. So he's going to have to try and transition to counter units of some kind. Otherwise, I think he is in deep trouble. So maybe some archers will be good, maybe a defensive watchtower. Meanwhile, Yellow going to try and mine this if he can. Gray just throwing away his troops, making sure he's as far behind as physically possible. Meanwhile, Green with his meta build, Mangonels, Knights, and Conquistadors. A little bit of everything good here. Of course, Conquistadors do benefit from that Bloodlines upgrade, so good to see him doing that. Meanwhile, Orange desperately trying to defend, but we all know that Teemo has a very strong early game, but in the late game, he starts to drop off a little bit. Depends on the team comp, of course, but... Oh man, will he be able to take down the Spanish menace? The answer is probably no, not with this choice of military units. The longswordsman, of course, going to be very weak versus those conquistadors. He's going to have a lot of trouble getting up to that mangonel. Is he using the split formation, or is he with the Viper-esque micro? Splitting his military units. The mangonel with 0 Dura armor will not be able to defend against the longswordsman's penetratingly long blade. Meanwhile, these crossmen will be excellent against, well, not excellent. They're okay against conquistadors, but they're very weak versus those knights. I would like to see some pikemen here. perhaps to protect these crossbowmen. Looks like orange might be in deep shit, but meanwhile, red, yet again, the only player in the game. Yes! Yes! You go get him, red. Live the dream. Oh, this is better than that. Better than those, like, Raceland's Purple Vikings in that step game. If you guys haven't seen the rest of my free-for-all games, some of them are pretty legendary. In the Sherwood Hero game, absolutely insane, and then we saw that step game. Oof. What is this? Well, this wall does literally nothing unless he managed to get it around the entire monument. Can he do it? I would like some expert analysis here from RabbitTortoise. Was this the dominant strategy in testing? Is this intentional? We'll have to see. Meanwhile, perhaps red playing with fire is blue patrolling an army of ranged units. Red says fuck, but it looks like blue does not want to engage. Full well knowing it'll take a long time to remove these walls. Oh my. Well, meanwhile, the two of them are trading, so this is good. I like that red is secured in alliance with blue. It's very difficult for me to keep track of the teams, of course, because, well, they're going to be changing non-stop. And players can be allied with each other, but not the other way around. So, like, Vavy could be allied with, say, Korbic, but Korbic doesn't have to be allied with Vavy. Speaking of that, by the way, Vavy is all alone. He set himself to neutral with a couple of people, so he's basically just designated a couple people he doesn't hate, but he's not friends with anybody. He's that guy in high school that hates everybody there, but there's varying degrees of hate. There are just some people that he's neutral to. Oh my goodness. Well, it looks like red again, his economy very, very small. Very small. Vavy at 125 population just got to the Castlade. Meanwhile, we go to Korbic, he's at 51, so he's definitely going to have to work on that. He does have the Royal Heirs upgrade, but he's so short on cash. The reason he's so short in cash is that, well, he just has no villagers to sustain that level of production. But he does have trade cards. Perhaps a little bit early to invest in trade cards, as they are generally very slow to get a lot of them out. And then you're going to want that trade caravan upgrade and whatnot before that. Meanwhile, let's swap to I've Got Moxie's perspective, as he does indeed get to the Castle Age. Finally, he has the Long Swordsman upgrade in time to engage. Long Swordsman on Long Swordsman. I've never seen this many infantry units in one game. My God. Mein Gott. Oh, Vavy, casualty of war, slays that innocent boar. I don't know if you guys saw that. You can see its little corpse right there. Run, Mrs. Villager, run far away before you get conscripted into Vavy's army. We've seen how he treats the civilians. He sends these lumberjacks straight to war immediately. Oh, okay. Yellow doesn't have any extra upgrades on Gray, and Gray's Long Swordsmen are cheaper, but Yellow just has more military units. He's putting down a siege workshop. Will we see some scorpions? That is the question. Again, he's just significantly outnumbered here. I don't really think he should be taking on this fight. Meanwhile, Yellow's gold miners on strike. These very unsafe working conditions right next to the Goths player. I can understand why that would make him feel nervous. Meanwhile, Yellow going to counter the siege workshop with a siege workshop of his own. Green in the Imperial Age, as well as blue and purple. Teemo not doing so hot. Not doing so hot. His 5 Triforce build not working out right now, but he is building some of those pikemen, which I do think will be excellent versus these Cavaliers. But the thing is, he's at a significant tech disadvantage. He better kiss up to Green, otherwise I think he is dead. However, Green hopefully stops picking on our friend Mr. Teemo and realizes that the real prey is in the middle of the map. This wall is beautiful. This looks like something that the Conqueror's AI would actually build. Wall building, of course, in Aoe2, very, very limited. Red wants to go for Shotel Warriors, but he has no money whatsoever. And that's going to be a problem for him, as he just needs to make more villagers. So he's really got to do that. In the meanwhile, Gray says to Green, please leave. That's right. Let real men handle this. This is a Long Swordsman on Long Swordsman fight only, Green, you dirty cheater. And he's trying to bring Cavaliers to a Long Swordsman fight. No fun whatsoever. Now, one important thing to keep in mind is that Scorpions are actually not a completely useless unit, and you may have seen that Break the Meta episode with the Scorpion Rush. We want to learn a little bit more about them. They do have some realistic applications. However, one major weakness of them is they are hard countered by mangonels, which of course our opponent does have a couple of them. But he has to watch out. This Long Swordsman trying to take advantage of that minimum range. This Watchtower will take him out eventually. +2 armor does make him quite resilient. Will he get a mangonel? He does, actually. Meanwhile, Yellow slowly overwhelming Gray's production. Is Gray just running out of gold? Because that was like one of his main gold mines. He does still have this one, though. He's just going to need more villagers. There are a lot of players here who are significantly underboomed. Meanwhile, Green claims he's not a god, and he's not going to stomp these noobs. However, looks like he lied. But Purple is very good at this game as well. So we have the 3 Tyrants right now, all, of course, in the Imperial Age. while everyone else on the map fights with infantry units. I will fight with honor, and I will fight with long swordsmen. Good luck. Hey, I'm Lucius says, mocking the 5 Triforce build. Right, Freak just unsubscribed. No, Freak, please, I can change. Otter wants to know what's Red's pop. Take a guess. It is 51. So he's actually very, very close to Gray. However, Gray just had more villagers sooner. Remember, guys, there's one thing I want you to take away from all of my videos, is that the most important thing you can do to improve your overall quality of play is to make sure that you get to 100 villagers ASAP. So this means keep your town center always working. You can't stop at 45 or whatever arbitrary number this is. That's not going to work out. Meanwhile, it looks like Teemo and Korbic have teamed up, so Red and Orange are on the same team. This is good, as Korbic, of course, is a Teemo main. And unfortunately, this gate, once again, is going to let those Cavaliers in. That's awful. Unfortunately, Red just did not have enough resources to make any military. He's going to lose the stable, and really, I feel like these walls were a waste of stone, and that the walls, they do nothing if you don't actually have anything to kill the enemy army. Because here's the thing, and a common mistake that a lot of new players make, is that they assume that walls are there to stop an enemy from attacking. Really, they're just there to provide warning. They're just there to slow down your opponent's army. That way, you're not surprised, and you've enough time to actually build appropriate counter units, mass up an army, and then when they do get through those walls, you engage, and you kick his butt. So it's just there to stall for time. In this case, Red's stalling for what? I mean, he had control of the map. Honestly, for the longest time out of any player in this game, he's one of the few players actually playing the objectives. And the thing is here, though, is that he had no army besides like a few Shotel warriors on the inside of these walls, so he wouldn't really have a way to deal with things like battering rams or whatever, nonsense that Green might be training. These very strong mounted units, very good for the Spanish. We know this because they have to get full upgrades. These bombard towers make it very hard for his opponents to actually push in here. Green trying to secure as much map control as possible. Notice how he's deliberately making sure his bombard towers are on top of that hill. Because, of course, if they were on the low ground, they would take 25% more damage and deal 25% less to units that were above them. So you'd have to be careful about that. This one I think is fine, though, but I like that he's protecting his stone mine as well. This would be very, very important for him to expand in this. Meanwhile, Green's just kind of ruining this fight between these two juggernauts. This 1-2 Cavaliers. He's killed like 5 houses with it. Thank you so much, out of characters, for the 2-month resub. This Cavalier here he's got like 50 kills to his name. What the fuck did you just say about me, he asks. He has 300 confirmed kills, and he's going in here and just cleaning up all of these miners. Poor Gray, I can't help but feel like his economy was honestly kind of crippled from this green attack with 2 Cavaliers, now Paladins. Not a fair fight, not a fair fight. Poor Gray must feel awful about this outcome. This is the other Paladin, of course. This one also 300 confirmed kills. Is incredibly resilient. 3 + 4 pierce armor does make it a very strong rating in it. Meanwhile, Blue trying to camp the production of Mr. Purple. We swap to Blue's perspective. Who's on his team? He's on the same team as Red and Orange, but it looks like his enemies with both Purple and Green. We go to Purple's perspective. Is he allied with Green? He is. Okay, so Purple and Green are going to turn on each other at some point. Meanwhile, Blue messing him up. Green confirmed worst allied North America is not actually going to defend his teammate. You see this all the time, man, in these King of the Hill games. Scumbag teammate, allies in name only. This is when you unally with this guy if he doesn't help you here. What kind of friend are you? Well, meanwhile, Green, he's going to send in 2 undeployed trebuchets to try and intimidate Blue, but Blue is not easily scared. Green, though, will be pulling his army a little bit to the left to deal with this Blue army, which is really doing no damage to the buildings at all. Meanwhile, Purple prepping some trash units to be a little bit conservative with his gold. Are we going to get a Spanish-on-Spanish late game fight between Green and Purple? That's the question. A lot of people need to start, uniting against Green and stop fighting each other. Like, I think it's time, like I said, and I mention this all the time in the lobby chat, and you can see that at the start of the game. When the timer hits 100 years, it's go time. Everyone needs to gang up on Green, take him out of the game, and show him that we don't support terrorism. He needs to send his entire army. There we go. Looks like Yellow is moving towards the middle. Everyone needs to form a coalition against Green, sanction him, and take him down. He's going to be building a bunch of bombard towers, castles, siege workshops, you name it. He's basically taking advantage of Red's walls, which is going to make it... These walls, man. These walls are not going to help anybody, unfortunately, especially not Red in this case, because nobody else can get into the middle of the map now, and now Green is basically just moves in. These are his walls. Green has no intention of actually using these gates. They're just a way to slow people down. Meanwhile, Purple forgetting about the 100 years rule. Whoa, Purple! We're at 80 years, 79 years. The real enemy is this man. How are you going to take him down in 70 years? I can spam it as much as I want in the lobby, but everybody here, of course, short-term memory. Nobody remembers the 100 years rule. It's 100 villagers in 100 years. Ah, yes, there we go. Purple going for the gate. This is good. This is good. Again, he hasn't actually switched to enemy yet with green because otherwise green's bombard tower will be shooting him. He's just justifying this as a help thing. He's like, don't worry, green, I'm here to help you, and I'm here to protect you from these nasty red walls that are messing with your game plan so much. This is good. However, unfortunately, purple has no siege weapons, which is going to be really difficult to actually get through this. He never finished this castle. He's going to need some siege weapons. This army of trash units isn't scaring anybody. It's not going to be enough to take down green. Where is every player on the map? I understand that, you know, orange is a little bit crippled from all of the pounding he's been taking from these paladins. Meanwhile, yellow moving in with some woad raiders. Blue trying to claw his way in there. At least he has access to the gate. Everybody needs to ally with red so they can use his gates. Well, they're moving in here, but purple's fighting blue. Purple, it's time! It's time to betray him! How many times in the lobby do I need to say 100 years is when you turn on the guy who holds the middle? Purple's like 100 years, or did he say 1 year? Purple right now, losing the game, throwing it for everybody by cleaning up all of Blue's military units. Army literally AFK, asleep at the wheel. Oh no. Green might be able to get the easiest win of his life because meanwhile, Purple's still content to fuck those walls in particular. How many pop-ups do we need? Red says sorry for his incompetence. Don't worry about it, Red Man. Everyone has to start somewhere. And honestly, I would like to know what's going on here. There's no allied victory turned on friend. 46 years is not 100 years remaining. You know, here's the thing. It's really... I know it drives some people crazy seeing like new players screw up all the time, but I have to say, Red was one of the best players in this game by far. He was the only one playing the objective. He's the only one playing the objective. He's the one guy in Heroes of the Storm that actually caps the watchtower. He's the one guy that wants to take the boss, whereas everyone else is like, nah, let's just recall. Well, meanwhile, green has to turn on purple because purple has just forgot how this game mode works. As we see, purple was the second best player here score-wise, but he did not remember the 100-year rule. He did not remember that he actually had to, at some point, attack green, and then he actually even let green get the first strike, parking his army underneath all those bombard towers, essentially just going to lose all of his guys. So Red, the player with the smallest economy, smallest military, the underdog, is the voice of reason in this crazy dog-eat-dog world. He's the only player here that remembers the settings. Meanwhile, Orange probably needs to move towards the center of the map, but I understand his army is pretty weak, and these guys are just going to have so much trouble dealing with green. Oh my goodness! Game of Throws! This is every... This is not going to be the closest game of King of the Hill he's ever seen, but I hope that the early game Infantry Wars makes up for that, as that was amazing. Oh my goodness. See, I'm telling you, man, Red, the voice of reason, he might not remember to make enough villagers, but he knows what these settings are. Oh no. Purple reacting a little bit too late. Green just gonna win. Everyone else, you know, not really putting up too much of a fight here. Orange is attacking now, but people forgetting the 100 years rule. Meanwhile, Yellow's like, get back in your cage, Orange. Actually, JK, I need to win the game by going to the middle. 15 years remaining is not 100 years. He's just going to put down more bombard towers. What a convincing victory here for Green. Completely unopposed. I thought everybody would gang up against him, but it turns out not really the case. In fact, I don't think Purple actually has any allies right about now. But it's okay. People forget all the time that it's King of the Hill. That is part of the excitement. But of course, if watching players makes mistakes, it gives you an aneurysm and you don't find it as funny as I do. That's why I have plenty of expert games, of course. And there are a lot of also really, really close free-for-alls that I've had, but sometimes I like to weave in some really stupid victories in there too, just to mix things up. That way you never know if it's going to be the easiest game of Green's life, or if he's going to be the first person to lose. GG, well played, Green. Very convincing victory here. Few people going to oppose the Juggernaut. He's going to be winning with double the score of every player below him. Red, one of the few players who actively tried to stop him. Yellow, of course, trying to swing in there as well. Orange coming by at the end. Orange, of course, very, very crippled. I can't help but feel that if blue and purple actually teamed up, win at the same time, they totally had an opportunity. Like, there are a lot of moments in this game, you know, when green had his army parked in front of here. I mean, when blue had his army parked in front of here and he wasn't helping purple, that's when I would switch to enemy and be like, what's going on, man? And I would kiss up to blue. I'd be like, Zipline, you handsome, handsome man. Let's make love in the center of the map after we kick green out. So that's when I would form a team. I would push in the middle and try and kick him out. I like the moment that green starts to set up a circle of bombard towers around the middle, I would lay down the law. I'd be like, if you want us to keep our alliance, you will not build those bombard towers. And he'll be like, fight me, mate. And then you fight him. This is the type of thing where you have to be thinking about in the long run, and Green just set himself up for success. I would say it was a very meticulous, methodical victory from him. I would say he planned this out. Notice how, if you look at the mini-map, he just gobbled up that fish, and that gave him a very, very big economy lead in this game. It's like basically like having an additional town center in the early game. So the fish, of course, a very efficient source of food, and yeah, Green just sort of set himself up for this. So when you're thinking in the long run, like, if you're on the team with the Titan Green, you gotta be thinking, how am I going to beat him eventually? That's the idea. So yeah, I think that these guys put aside their differences. I hear that Blue didn't want to team up either. It was also a little bit of a blunder. But at some point, these guys will learn the 100 Years rule. Still, though, even though Blue didn't want to team up with you, I probably would have attacked Green a lot sooner, rather than park your army underneath all of his stuff and let him get the first strike. But alas, everything is easier in retrospect, as Green was ready for this from the day he was born, the day he was a fetus. He said, I'm ready to win some King of the Hill free-for-all, and he does. Blue and Red with some very, very impressive trade profit. Perhaps a little bit early to start trading, but again, it doesn't really matter. I think the real moral of the story here is that villagers win games. As we can see here, 7 hands, had 7 hands on his keyboard, constantly producing villagers. 136 villager high, very, very respectable. All the very scary players in this game just had a lot of villagers. And I would say if you had 48 or 49 villagers, you probably had too few. Now, obviously, Gray lost a huge chunk of his base, so that is totally understandable. I think he put up a really admirable fight versus Vavian. That was one of the funniest things I've seen in a while. So yeah, keep those 10 centers working, guys. Make sure you get to at least 100 villagers in every single game as fast as you can. And yeah, you only really want to cut villager production once you get to the Imperial Age and you just happen to have 100 villagers. Ninja Guy asks, have you been keeping up with the slow trickle of card reveals for Whispers of the Old Gods on Hearthstone? Absolutely! And then I'm very excited for that. Feasible says, hi everyone, hi Residence22, did the stream start early? I tried to start it earlier, but the Twitch servers were down, so I still started it early anyway, but I had to wait like 40 minutes to connect. Don't worry about it, Stinky Cheese, you did your best! Thought you had some good fighting early on, I gotta kick out of those meta-arms. There's a lot of really cool stuff going on in this game. Next time we'll probably be a little bit more picky about whether or not to keep Green in the game, but I do have to say there were multiple points where he could have been stopped, so it was mostly okay. We've learned our lesson here, though. He was absolutely too strong for this, but he insisted, so we kept him in this one time. I still think he could have been stopped, but it's okay. There were a lot of really awesome moments here. I love to see the mass infantry. The constant back and forth between yellow and gray was absolutely amazing, and the usage of walls in this match really was really great. Brings me back to the AI games that I used to do a lot. It was a lot of fun. So yes, GG, well played everybody. I hope you enjoyed watching this match. If you did, plenty more Age of Empires 2 videos on my YouTube channel, as well as videos of other games, all sorts of strategy games. So if you like this one, you'll probably like those as well. I got expert games, tutorials, matches from the live stream, you name it. You can find my live streaming schedule on my Twitch page by going there and scrolling underneath the video player. As always, your support means a lot to me. I realize that, when I do things like extra content for whatever game, it might not really be for you. But if you don't fight it and you're supportive, it really helps me be able to produce, continue producing Age of Empires content, stick around on YouTube. So it means a lot to me. We'll be back in 2 minutes with the next game of the live stream, so don't go anywhere, guys. We'll be right back after the break. And of course, I do read all your comments, even if I don't get a chance to respond to each of them individually. Thank you so much for those of you who respond on my behalf. We'll be back shortly. It's wonderful to have you guys. Oh, also, I do have a ResQuote subreddit, so feel free to hang out there as well if you're interested. We'll be right back in 2 minutes after the break. GG, well played. Next game will be the higher rated game of the stream where I will be playing in it.